Hi, my name's Brad Young, and welcome to the Peak Performance Podcast. This is episode 6, and we're going to be looking at the foundations of elite training techniques. The opinions shared on this podcast are for informational purposes only and are not intended to diagnose, treat, or cure any medical conditions. While I may be highly qualified, I'm not trying to cure any medical conditions. You need to talk with your physician about that. But so far, we have looked at discovering your hidden strengths. You found your hidden strengths in episode 2. Every episode has a practical application link that's in the description of the podcast. So you go, you hit the link, you go, you can read, it has surveys, has information that'll help you, complete those tasks and practically apply what we do. So you discovered your hidden strengths. Episode 3, you unlocked peak performance through self-awareness. You become more self-aware, and that makes it easier to, for you to set goals and move forward. Episode 4, we discovered what peak performance means to you, and you had to fill out what it actually means to you. And then episode 5, we unlocked your peak performance potential. You found out what elite athletes, what they have and their skills and what they do. And then you had to put a plan together to maximize your peak performance from a mental and physical standpoint. And today we're going to look at the foundations of elite training techniques. So when we start looking at that, we got to think about elite training techniques. All right. So when you're looking at training regimens, you got to figure out, number one, what type of muscle fiber you're training. All right, you have slow twitch fibers that are for endurance. You have fast twitch fibers that are for strength and speed. So by targeting these fibers with specific exercises and intensity levels, athletes can enhance their strength, speed, and endurance. Knowledge about the energy systems that helps understanding how the body produces and utilizes energy during different types of physical exercise. And that's one of the main things you have to understand, when you get goals and when you're training for different type of events. And so, just like I said, the next episode, we're going to have a specific event you can train for. It's going to be a simple step-by-step training plan to be able to go through it. I'm going to go through it myself. I'm going to see what I score on the test. So, trainers will use their knowledge to tailor exercises that maximize an athlete's efficiency and performance. So, for endurance, all right, so when you're doing endurance training, you're targeting slow twitch fibers, like long distance running, cycling, and swimming. And they're, a steady pace is ideal. So for long distance running, you obviously begin with a warm up to prepare the muscles and gradually increase to a steady pace and a sustainable speed. Maintain a rhythm that allows conversation without gasping for air. That's important. If you cannot speak, you're training too fast. When I heart rate train, I always make sure that I heart rate train at a level that I can speak clearly. We can have a conversation, because it's about building those fibers. You got to understand that you've got to build those fibers, and so those slow twitch fibers, you don't build them by sprinting. You build them by long distance running and adaptation. Cycling, same thing. You want to be moderate or flat and have a consistent cadence. Swimming, same thing, rowing, hiking, So for endurance, you're simply working at a steady state, something that's sustainable where you can maintain this for hours and hours, because that's the whole purpose of endurance training. While you may add in other types of training, when you're specifically working on the slow twitch fibers, this is a foundation of how you do it. And it's going to be in the handout as well, where you can go in and evaluate the exercises and things that you need to utilize to accomplish your goals. To develop fast twitch fibers, they're for strength and speed. This is such as sprinting, heavy weightlifting, plyometric drills like box jumps, jumping jacks, any kind of explosive activity. When you look at that, you look at sprinting. You can perform bursts of speed to sprint, lasting 20 to 30 seconds, followed by a rest period. Heavy weightlifting, you concentrate on heavy weights in the 3 to 6 rep area. It's going to allow you to, develop that strength. Some people use the 5x5. I mean, I used to utilize a pyramid technique where where you're steadily pyramiding up and you're pyramiding back down with your weights, and it creates a lot of strength. Creates a lot of muscle. Also creates endurance as well, because you are, as you're going up, you are, as the weight gets heavier, you're staying in that low rep. But I mean, you're getting tired. You're pushing yourself to where you have a lot more strength, just like in German volume training. Same thing. You build it up. But when you can focus on squats, deadlifts, and bench presses with heavy weights, and those are the your powerlifting competition things as well. Box jumps. Obviously you want to stand on the box and jump, and I love doing box jumps. I have a box jump out in my garage. I used to have it in the house as well, and I've got a gym here I could utilize as well upstairs. And love box jumps because they're explosive. They work on strength and speed, and I mean interval training. This is where you alternate between high intensity and low intensity exercises, to where it's high intensity effort with low intensity recovery periods. So it's kind of like my high intensity workout that I do. I don't stop, I don't rest, and I do heavy weights. I do it at a high intensity level, and so it helps with strength and speed, because everything I do is back to back to back with no rest, and then I run 10 minutes in between each circuit, so there's no rest there. Medicine ball slams. Medicine balls are great because it's explosive force, and actually medicine ball will be in the Army PT test that we're going to look at in the next episode. So hybrid athletes. So you're developing fast and slow twitch muscles. Well, do this. It's tricky. It's a balancing point, because you're combining strength and power exercises like squats, deadlifts, and plyometrics to target your fast twitch. But then you're performing tempo training like controlled slower movements with lighter weights to engage your slow twitch fibers. And that improves your muscle endurance. So you got to think about that. If you're hybrid, you're going to include sprint intervals. You're going to focus on steady state cardio, because the whole point of hybrid is to be able to run a marathon, but still be able to lift heavy weights and have the strength. And I feel that I'm definitely in that category. I put a lot of effort into being a hybrid athlete. I really enjoy it. It takes a lot of stretching. It takes a lot of flexibility, and it takes a lot of dedication to be able to balance those things out. And so, in the handout, you're going to be able to go through and evaluate what you can do with this information. So, you can utilize resistance endurance circuits. So, where you're training with longer duration sets using moderate weights that target muscle types, both muscle types, while improving your stamina. And that's, essentially what I'm doing there. Because it's weights that I can lift for 25 to 50 pounds. 25 to 50 times. But, most people, that's what I'm doing is around their max, in general. Because as I go through, I do 25 pull-ups, etc. through the whole thing. And so I'm already maxing out a lot of your tests just in my rounds, and with 10 minutes running in between. But it's took years to build it, and I've got to get better. But you can, alternate high and low repetitions, different rep schemes, mixing heavy, low rep sets for explosiveness with lighter high rep sets for sustained muscle engagement. Practice active recovery, incorporate lower intensity mobility focus exercises like yoga or swimming, and that is very highly advisable for high intensity. When you're hybrid, you really need to stretch it. You could even call CrossFit athletes hybrid. They have to incorporate yoga and things like that into their schedule as well, because they're essentially doing the same thing. They're lifting heavy weights, and they're doing, they're doing distance running and everything involved there as well. So now let's look at the energy systems. So when you look at the energy systems that can improve your HIIT exercises, you're using the aerobic system while maintaining marathon training relies on the aerobic system. So you got to look at your ATP first. So when you look at your energy system, your ATP, it provides immediate energy for short, high intensity efforts up to 10 seconds. It utilizes stored ATP and creatine in the muscles. Examples include weightlifting, sprinting, explosive jumps. Training system can improve power and peak performance during short duration, high intensity activities. And you can actually take ATP. There's supplements that produce ATP. And it's how, for me, I take them. I think it's a really good idea. And then we have anaerobic lactic acid system. So when you look at your lactic acid system, this fuels activities lasting from 10 seconds to 2 minutes. It's what it does. It breaks down glucose without the use of oxygen. While efficient for short bursts of energy, it produces lactic acid, which can lead to muscle fatigue. Examples would be middle distance running, high intensity interval training, like I do a lot of, which trains the system to enhance the anaerobic capacity and delay fatigue during intense efforts. Aerobic system, the primary source of energy for longer, low intensity activities, relying on oxygen to break down the carbohydrates and fats for energy. It supports endurance-based exercises like long distance running, cycling, swimming. Improving this system through steady state cardio or longer duration activities boost stamina and overall cardiovascular health. So when we look at these things, your ATP is short. Anaerobic, getting that lactic acid buildup, you're looking at 2 minutes breaking down your glucose and the sugar. So obviously you can have eat sugar when you're working that system. And the same thing, for your aerobic system, it's going and it tries to break down carbs and fats. And so it breaks down your carbohydrates and your fats. So we look at this, and now we got to look at, recovery as a critical part. And so the ability to recover and adapt after intense sessions is key to injury prevention. Periodization, which is a method of training that's designed to peak at key competitions. It outlines preparation, peak performance, and recovery phases. So look up periodization. It's something that's very interesting. You look at it, and it's going to help you operate at a peak performance. So managing the body's anabolic and catabolic state optimizes muscle repair and growth. Advanced recovery techniques like cryotherapy, massage therapy, and anti-inflammatory diets help control inflammation, helping athletes in peak condition. Trainers may design programs to help with this. Consult trainers, coaches. Anybody can help because, look for the experts. You got to go out and seek experts to get help. The science behind what makes an athlete. The main difference between elite and standard athletic training is muscle adaptation and energy use. Elite athletes often have more type 2 fast twitch fibers, which is crucial for explosive movements like sprinting and jumping. These fibers provide quick power, but tire faster than the type 1 slow twitch fibers, which supports endurance. So to increase your type 2 fibers, you focus on high intensity explosive exercises like sprinting, plyometrics, heavy weight lifting with low reps. Combine these with adequate rest and proper nutrition to support muscle recovery. Elite athletes stand out superior cardiovascular efficiency, including a higher VO2 max, which allows better oxygen utilization and sustained performance. Combined with an advantage strength and conditioning program, this enables extraordinary feats. So to increase your VO2 max, focus on aerobic exercises such as running, cycling, and swimming at a moderate to high intensity. Incorporating interval training gradually increases duration and intensity over time to help challenge your cardiovascular system. So muscle fiber typing and adaptation. So muscle fiber composition is adaptable under training which is key to athletic performance. Studies show that elite sprinters have more type 2 fibers, while endurance athletes have more type 1 fibers, which we've already established that. But fast twitch fibers generate more power but fatigue more quickly, while slow twitch, are sustained. So an approach would be an elite sprinter might perform explosive strength exercises like power cleans and plyometric jumps to enhance the fast twitch muscle fiber recruitment, paired with short, high intensity sprints for newer muscular adaptation. Conversely, an endurance athlete would focus on long distance runs and steady state cycling to build slow twitch fiber efficiency to improve aerobic capacity. So when we look at all these things, it all leads to how you're training and what you're training. And so that's what the link is that's in the podcast description. And we're going to go over that here in just 1 second. But, here's some supplements to support elite performance. And this is these things that I like to utilize and, are pretty common. Branched chain amino acids, BCAAs, and whey protein, obviously. They're popular options for recovery, reducing soreness and muscle repair. Creatine supports strength gains and it enhances high intensity training capacity, making it ideal for athletes that focus on power and endurance. And creatine, it's been around a long time and it is a true asset for most athletes. It's, you can't hardly go wrong with creatine. Omega-3 fatty acids, which are found in fish oil, they help reduce inflammation and support joint health, which is essential. You got to think about those things. And so when you look at energy system efficiency, caffeine. I know caffeine, could be a dirty word in some places, but caffeine enhances focus and endurance, improves alertness. Caffeine is definitely in your pre-workouts. So you got to remember that. It raises your heart rate, increases focus, it delays fatigue during physical exercise. So, it can be utilized in many ways. Beta-alanine, it aids in buffering lactic acid buildup during high intensity exercise. And so, again, a lot of pre-workouts have beta-alanine in there. And they, it really helps delay lactic acid buildup. Electrolyte supplements obviously help replenish minerals lost through sweat. Many runners and long distance people obviously, consume electrolytes, on long runs. I do, especially in the summer. And I've gotten pretty low too. It's hard to get that right balance sometimes. So there's been times when it's been 110 degrees and not be able to, to retain enough minerals and electrolytes, not stay hydrated like I needed to. But it helps you maintain, it maintains an optimal performance. And, you can just, these are things you can combine into a well-rounded program and then, boost training results, support overall recovery. And so now to our handout. And handout's going to be a link in the podcast, and it's essentially goes through endurance training for slow twitch fibers. So it tells what it is, helps you set goals, work through. And then we go to fast twitch, etc. for hybrid athletes. And so I think it's a real value. And so I encourage you to download that, take a look at it, see how it can help you, and see what information you utilize to form a plan. Because the next one we're going to be looking at training for the Army PT test. All right. Well, thanks, and you have a great day. My name's Brad Young. This has been the Peak Performance Podcast.